Alright, so at this point I have played through New Vegas in many ways. Weapon restricted runs, character runs, and even those chase runs that you all love so much. And yet, for some reason, in all that time, I have never attempted the most obvious run of all. That, of course, being, can you beat Fallout New Vegas with Fallout New Vegas? The name itself is rather self-explanatory if you ask me, but for the couple of you that may be a tad confused, allow me to explain. I have taped copies of Fallout New Vegas to both of my hands, one PS3 and one 360 to be exact, for the inclusivity. I will then attempt to use those copies of New Vegas to press buttons and move the sticks on my Series X controller so that New Vegas can attempt to beat New Vegas. This is not a joke. I understand why you may think that, given the date of the upload, but to prove that I am serious, I set up my phone to record the whole thing. Felt it was the only way to prove that I kept those things taped on the entire time. So there will be a small recording throughout the entire video in the bottom right hand corner, showing my real life struggles with this unique setup. The only rule is that I may not touch the controller with anything but the two copies of Fallout New Vegas. Here's hoping it doesn't fall off the table during the recording process, because I don't know if I will be able to pick it back up. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin. The first problem was just starting the game. Moving through menus with a stick is nearly impossible, as doing small movements is rather difficult, as you can imagine, meaning the D-pad was required. And let's just say I'm glad I have a backup controller, because after karate chopping this one continuously throughout this, I think it might be on its last legs now. That said, I did not let it deter me from going into the menus. After all, I still needed to talk with people, and fast travelling would be a godsend. That said, when Doc asked me for my name, I didn't even bother to try typing something, so it was Mr. Courier. I did, however, make long, blonde and handsome like always. I'm stubborn like that, I suppose. At the very least, rapid tapping the A button to skip through dialogue was simple enough. About the only thing I was able to get the hang of right away, to be honest. When it was time to move, something I did not anticipate was that pushing too hard on the stick like this was going to shift the controller around on the table. While I may be looking like Edward Fallout hands, the controller itself was not secured to the table in any way, shape or form, so I had to keep readjusting it every few minutes or so if I was caught being too heavy-handed. At the very least, moving it around with these two shovels was a lot easier than I had expected. Now, for yet another aspect I had not considered. Using the triggers. Specifically here to get through assigning my special stats. It's awkward, to say the least. Sure, I could have just remapped the buttons in the options menu, but I feel that would have taken away from some of the challenge, so for the sake of this run, everything just stayed with their default buttons. The best way I found was to use my left hand New Vegas as a wedge to stop the controller from moving, while I did a sideways chop with the right hand Vegas to just about clip the trigger. God, combat is going to be so fun. Speaking of, since we are assigning the stats, let's go over the game plan. Given the bizarre situation that is occurring with this run, and just how difficult it is to perform the basic actions of simply walking and turning, I think it's fair to go with the path of least resistance where possible this time. To that end, it's a high focus on speech, charisma, and endurance. I need to be able to tank hits, and where possible, hopefully talk my way out of any encounters. This means it's probably one of the only times you will see me max out the charisma stat. Luck was just there for a few extra skill points as well, although in retrospect, agility would have been a much greater thing to focus on, as having it high meant that I would have more action points, and therefore combat would have been a hell of a lot easier as I could have just relied on VATs. I should stress that this isn't a pacifist run, I've already done that. I just want it to be known that avoiding as much combat as possible is the smartest way to play this go around. On to tag skills, it's more of the same. Speech and medicine to complement my high charisma and endurance, as well as science for a few specific skill checks to make meeting the factions go smoother. As for traits, nothing. I didn't want to overcomplicate things, and I didn't feel like any of them would benefit me all that much in the long run. Sure, I could have taken skilled, but honestly, if I'm not going to be doing a whole lot, I kind of want to get as much experience as possible, as fast as possible. Now, with the world as my oyster, it was time to form a plan of attack. or rather right now, how to move somewhat consistently. For the time, the best way I found to use the stick without shoving the entire controller away from me was using the corner of the Xbox 360 box and then using that to poke and manipulate it from the top. It was the most consistent method for movement, but I did test a few other ways out throughout the video, more so for curiosity's sake than anything else. Deciding to make use of everything I had at my disposal, I was going to use the pre-order bonuses for some decent easy to use weapons and armour. I stuck with the lightweight leather for now and the grenade rifle. The leather is durable and allows me to be quick on my feet, whereas the grenade rifle ensures that I don't have to be accurate when fighting back. Once I had a handle on the movement, I began heading for Sloan. I wanted levels to up my speech skill ASAP, so I was planning to rush to Vegas through the Black Mountain shortcut. Although I did stop off at Sloan itself to help Snuffles, cause he is my friend, and even in my weakened state, I will find a way to fix him. I was a little worried about the bark scorpions poisoning me if I wasn't able to evade them, but it turns out I've done this enough times by now that even with the dexterity of a Lego figure, I was able to give them the slip. I will say I lucked out hard that none of the super mutants or Nightkin were down on the lower end of the path this time. They tend not to be, I'm aware, but Sod's Law states that today should have been the day they tried to beat the crap out of me. I made sure to grab the NCR uniform from the dead soldier, as I can think of many uses for disguising a run like this, mainly the monorail, which, as you can imagine, was my ticket to getting into New Vegas today. I could have gone and gambled at the Atomic Wrangler, true, but this is simply just a faster way of achieving the same outcome, so I figured it made the most sense. Getting to Camp McCarran unscathed is easy enough. I just stick close to the outer wall when approaching the base. That way I'm a good distance from the attacking fiends, who should then all be slaughtered by the NCR firing line between us. With the uniform equipped, I easily make it onto the monorail, and within a minute, I have made it into the tops, all but ready to confront Benny. Fortunately, the act of simply seeing Chenandler Bong is enough to grant us 1000 XP, which this early on translates to 3 whole levels. Every skill point is dumped into Speech to get it above 80, and the 2 perk points are both into Swift Learner. If I was smart, I would have chosen to play as a woman at the start and then taken the Black Widow perk, so I could easily have killed Benny after sleeping with him. Sadly, I didn't have that foresight today, so we got to use the old reliable method of flapping our gums to swank enough that he gives us access to Benny's private suite, our weapons back, and a chance to take him out one-on-one. At this stage, I was beginning to get more comfortable with the controls when it came to moving and selecting items and objects, which is good because I was about to have my first combat encounter. I approach Benny from just outside his field of view so he doesn't hit me with his time-freezing special of the what in the goddamn, and then immediately attack the VATS button so I can start blasting. A couple of things. This doesn't take him out in one shot, so I must keep following up with repeated grenades. As I didn't put anything into agility, this does mean I have to rely on him just staying in blasting range, which thankfully he does do. Benny also outputs a decent amount of damage, which I forgot about, as his unique pistol Maria can lay on the pain. That I can circumvent though with our healing supplies at the very least. Finally, and what ended up being the biggest nuisance of the fight, was my controller's aggressive vibrating throughout the entire ordeal. Every shot I took, and especially with every pull of the trigger of the grenade rifle, that son of a bitch would just start shaking like it was coming down from a bad trip. Naturally, this caused it to dance around the table, meaning I was fighting a battle on 2 fronts, the real life fight being vastly trickier. Thankfully, I was able to pin it down with one box and then just use the other to rapid fire the trigger once Benny was low on health, and in doing so, could easily win the fight. I was so excited by the idea, I even took a brief moment to celebrate. After retrieving the chip, we hit level 5, and thus allowing me to max out my speech skill already. From here, science would need to be my priority for the next stage of my plan. I meet up with Yes Man and get the rundown on all the factions so I can start that part of the main quest. Yes, I am siding with Yes Man. I did house last time, and this just made the most sense given the handicap. With that in mind, my first port of call was to meet the other 2 families on the strip, those of course being the White Gloves and the Omertas. Well, the White Gloves, I simply speak with their leaders and decide they're alright, so we can leave them be. The Omertas, on the other hand, even with these stipulations, I still give them a brief taste of my mind. Now, all that left was Mr. House. And, thanks to us just having taken the platinum chip from Benny's person mere moments ago, is able to be dealt with in a matter of seconds by simply opening the door to his antechamber now that it is unlocked. I'm still not sure what the correlation between those 2 events is, but whatever. The Securitrons do a number on me while I'm trying to flick the right stick to the correct angle to access the terminal for the elevator, but luckily I'm able to line myself up before they obliterate me entirely. House himself is an easy one-shot with a grenade rifle, granting us more easy XP, more science, and this time the toughness perk. Shouldn't need to explain why that's useful. Leaving the chamber after House's violent deactivation causes the security force to stand down, allowing me to take a power nap upstairs to reset my bones. Once that's done, I send Yes Man over to start up his little demonstration, mainly to give my hands a brief rest, as by this point I lost feeling in my index finger due to the tape being slightly too tight. Not to worry, if anything, it was just some incentive to speed up and get things done faster. Well, I say that, but the next thing I tackled after this was a GI Blues quest for the King. I needed the XP as I required a higher science skill before meeting the Boomers and Brotherhood, and figured it gives a lot for very little work. The only problem was dealing with Oris, or more specifically, I made that part of the quest a problem. See, I can never be bothered to do this part the intended way, where you pay for his services, follow him to the gate to the strip, and then report back to the King that he is in fact a fraud. Rather, I go the direct path and just try to kill him. That's obviously not the easiest task to accomplish today. Doubly so when you remember Oris is standing right next to a King's gang member, so if I whip out the grenade rifle and start firing, I'll end up killing the gang member in the process and be put on Elvis's hit list. My only real alternative then was the caravan shotgun. While, yes, a decent weapon in its own right, it won't do much damage unless I hit Oris square in his noggin. Relying on VATS is also rather fickle here, as I don't know about you, but there are times in Fallout 3 and New Vegas where it seems like shotguns just don't calculate their damage right when in VATS, leading to situations like this where seemingly nothing happens, and thus in this case leading to a swift death on my part. To be fair, another main factor in my untimely demise here is my slow reload speed, thanks to not putting enough points into agility. Whoops. At the very least, I did have a plan for next time. While I may not be able to use VATS much due to not having a lot of action points, that doesn't stop me from spamming it to realign myself with the enemy. Doing so here while I'm close enough can position me to get almost guaranteed headshots with the shotgun. That said, on my second go around, I was basically just able to use the King member to my advantage as a bulletproof shield. Turns out Oris's bullets don't phase them, so I was able to just wait behind him briefly until my action points refilled. Oris himself seemed less accurate as well this time around, so that helped too. All that together meant I could just walk up into his face, pop a few heals if needed, and then blast him away once the action points had refilled. Not the most riveting fight, but I assure you, every single combat encounter was a moment worth celebrating in my mind. From here on, the rest of the quest is dialogue based, so while walking is still a pain to some extent, it is nowhere near as stressful as the combat scenarios and is over in a few minutes. Now at level 8 and it's more science, along with a second rank in toughness. Considering the Boomers were next on my to-do list, this would be damn near essential. Speaking of, the Boomers decided they were going to give Psycho Mantis a run for his money today in the whole fourth wall breaking, moving controller department. Every bombardment, every blast, every boom had the controller contemplating diving off the table. The saving grace was that since I decided to hole up in the blind spot of the first destroyed house, I was at the very least able to use the New Vegas to hold the controller as steady as possible until the artillery had to reload. As soon as that happened, it was a nice easy sprint to the front gate. Considering I'm going down the S-Man path, I could just continue on my way now, but not today. I got my science skill up so high for a reason. Well, two reasons, but one of them was for the Boomers. With a high enough science skill, I can convince Loyal to hand over the sonic emitter, and with some classic fumbling and tumbling, can just about manage to set it up down in the armory to then exterminate all of the ants without me actually having to lift a finger. Oh, a very important note, I made sure to grab Thump Thump, the unique grenade rifle, while I was down here too. Don't know how much use I'll get out of it from this point on, but hey, it's more powerful than the starting grenade rifle, so I may as well. Naturally, dealing with the ants isn't enough to convince him that I'm entirely friendly, so I also wait around during Pete's story time, as well as making the forward and back trips to the Crimson Caravan so that Jack may date his stalker. Don't think about it too much. But this all leads to us having to retrieve the bomber, of course. Goes without saying, but I need that rebreather from Jack. I get it easily enough due to my science skill, but yeah, there is no way in hell I would have been able to maneuver underwater quick enough without it to attach the ballasts and not drown. Nice minor quality of life trick for those that don't know. After you have attached both the ballasts, if you fast travel to the bomber's location on the map, it'll move you to exactly where you need to be to use Loyal's detonator to raise it. Very handy for today. That leaves only 2 factions left, along with having to head to the fort to upgrade the rest of my sentient unicycle killing machines. I decide that I'll just rip the band-aid off now and go meet the Brotherhood of Steel. Seeing how I haven't used her in a while, I hit up the 188 trading post to ever so briefly recruit Veronica so that she can get us into the bunker with no hassle. As soon as we exchange pleasantries with Ramos, I send her off to the Lucky 38. Feel like she doesn't want to be present for what's about to go down. Much like the boomers, I didn't feel like saying hi and bye and leaving them out to dry, so I was going to wipe them off the face of the desert instead. Like most of my runs where I have the fighting fortitude of a toddler, I opt to sneak into Ramos's office and hack the nearby terminal to turn the Brotherhood's incredibly overpowered turrets against them. For once, things weren't going their way, as they managed to destroy both turrets by the entrance on the top floor. Fortunately, there are a couple of others around, so I was able to follow Ramos long enough until one of them gunned him down. We are following him specifically as he has a key to the bunker, which I want to take, just in case they lock the doors whenever I activate the self-destruct sequence, as it has been known to happen. Speaking of the self-destruct sequence, well, that's why we maxed out the science skill. No need to try and fight Harden and the Elder for their cards if I can just hack on through. The scribes and knights on the bottom floor are wise to my actions though, and do prove to be a hassle. They don't manage to kill me, but rather drain me of some healing supplies. Honestly, that's probably a little worse in the grand scheme of things. On the topic of things not going so smoothly, my inability to walk and turn like a normal person led to me taking so long to leave the base that a few of the Brotherhood members managed to follow me outside before the destruction. They would have reduced me to ash within a few seconds if they had accuracy worth a damn, or if they actually left the vicinity of Hidden Valley. Now, all that leaves is the cans, so it's off to meet and greet them. Alright, so unlike the Boomers and Brotherhood of Steel, I don't bother going out of my way to befriend them and complete their quests. For one part, I just did that in my last run, and secondly, I just genuinely didn't want to. It's an April Fool's video after all. I'm not trying to make this a perfect run. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, is this an April Fool's run? Typically, April Fool's stuff is, you know, a joke and not actually accurate to the title in question. But like, I am technically beating the game with New Vegas, so in that sense, is it really a joke? Does this tangent mean anything in the grand scheme of things? Maybe it's just a simple way to stall for time as a way of showing you that nothing of worth happened on the way to Red Rock Canyon. Who can say? It's off to Caesar now, and I chose the path of least resistance. I travelled to the 188 where I am very glad I didn't send Veronica back to, otherwise she would have fisted me on sight no doubt. I have another brief run-in with the cans, this time at Boulder City. It's simply to fulfill the XP whore that I am, and then it's east to Cottonwood Cove. I travel up through Novak as the path is typically free from enemies. The only thing I ran into were a few geckos, all of which gave up pursuing me within less than a minute. Arriving at the cove, and I thought I had left it too late as I could hear gunfire on the approach and figured I'd angered the Legion by working with Yes Man for too long. Turns out, that was not the case. So, after solving matters peacefully in Boulder City between the cans and the NCR, I had scored enough rep with the NCR that I was to be given the radio. Meaning that Ranger was hot on my heels, and the Legion were not too happy about that, and began opening fire on poor Radio Man. Unfortunately for them, the NCR Radio Ranger is immortal. Every time he dies, he just immediately resurrects in the same location. I even stood around and watched for a bit while they tried to find a way to put him down permanently. That never happened. Quickly realising that Caesar may end up being mad at me should everybody at the cove perish, I quickly hopped on the boat and made my way to see the man himself. I wasn't the only one with this idea though, as once I entered the main camp, Radio Man was back with a vengeance and the guards weren't too happy to see him. I chose to just ignore him entirely this time and made my way into Caesar's tent. Luckily, he cannot seem to teleport in here because I know for a fact if Caesar bites it, then the entire Legion will be out for blood against me. With permission from Caesar, I can enter the bunker beneath the fort and get to the upgrading. However, House throws a curveball at me from the grave. As it turns out, he has an extra line of defense this time around.
You've done a good turn for the NCR, and now we'd like to do one for you. There's an NCR emergency two-way radio. You call, and we'll...
You like that? Had enough?
Able to finish his task, the Radio Ranger can finally accept the sweet release. All the while, I get to hacking and disabling the rest of House's defences. With the chip installed and the upgrades underway, all that remained was to make my way for the substation and power it up too. Meaning, it was now on to the final battle. If it feels like we got here very quick, you would be correct. From getting brought back to life in Doc Mitchell's house to this point has literally only taken just over 2 hours and 20 minutes. Like I said, given the setup, I was not messing around. I wanted this shit over with as soon as. It got kinda hectic again during my first encounter with the Legion on the dam, I won't lie. Lots of stuff causing the controller to freak out and start moving again. Thump Thump proved to be worth going after though, even if I only really got to use it here. I got a couple of decent hits in with it, but the NCR and Securitron backup made sure nothing was going to be left standing by the end. That's doubly so once I reached the second part of the dam and even more Securitrons come to my aid. They also acted as a great distraction while I rushed to speak with the Legate inside his camp at the end. I don't typically like talking down the Legate, but it just felt like the most sensible decision for today. The same goes for Oliver. Mostly. It's hard to deny Yes Man getting his own kill at the end of all things. So with that, the slideshow rolls, finishing the game and proving yes, you can indeed beat Fallout New Vegas with Fallout New Vegas. Why did I do this, you may ask? Simple. Because it seemed very stupid and I thought it would be funny. Plus, it's been sitting in my head for a while and I just needed a good time to do it, as I figured it would be a shorter run. There's only so long that I can be like, look how wacky these controls are. Speaking of, I got weirdly accustomed to them by the end, if you're wondering. Obviously not to the point of wanting to play the game that way, no, but still, it wasn't as bad as I initially thought. Anyway, don't forget to come back next year when I one-up this video by beating Fallout New Vegas without playing the game. Regardless, that's going to be the end of the challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like. If you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to run these videos out fairly frequently. My name's Nerbit, stay safe everyone, I'll see y'all in the next video.